Human survival instinct is one of evolution's greatest achievements. Unfortunately, these 10 people treated it like a minor inconvenience. This is not bad luck. This is ego, stupidity, and physics working together to create unforgettable endings. Number 1. The Grand Canyon Prank Spring. 2019, Grand Canyon, one of the most beautiful places on Earth. Also, very conveniently, one of the fastest ways to turn a bad idea into a permanent one. Meet Kevin, 42 years old, father of 3, and a man whose sense of humor peaked somewhere around middle school and never really updated. Kevin loved one thing: getting a reaction, jump scares, fake falls, anything that made people scream first and think later. To him, fear wasn't a warning, it was content. So when his family stopped at a scenic overlook, quiet, peaceful, the kind of place where normal people take photos and appreciate nature, Kevin saw something else entirely: a stage. Because nothing says great idea like turning a 6,000-foot drop into a punchline. Now, quick reality check. That railing? It's not decoration. It's not a suggestion. It's the only thing standing between you and becoming a very small, very permanent part of the canyon. But Kevin didn't see danger. He saw opportunity. His plan was simple: hop over the railing, pretend to slip, make everyone panic, then pop back up like a genius comedian who definitely won't have to explain himself later. In his head, this was gold. His wife saw him climb over and didn't even react. That's how often Kevin did stuff like this. His brother-in-law pulled out his phone, because even idiots deserve documentation. Kevin got into character, arms flailing, wide eyes, full performance mode. "Oh no, I'm slipping!" And right here, this exact moment, Kevin probably thought, this is it. This is the one. This is peak comedy. And to be fair, it was memorable, just not in the way he planned. Because loose gravel isn't a stage, it's a trap. His foot shifted. The ground disagreed with his entire personality. What was supposed to be fake panic became very real panic. He reached for the railing. Too far. Reached for the rock. It crumbled. Reached for the air, which, historically, has never helped anyone. The scream changed. You can always tell when it's real. And gravity, that completely humorless, undefeated force, did what it always does. It showed up. Kevin fell. Fast. Uninterrupted. Final. The phone video ends the way all these videos end. Not with music, not with editing, just silence. Then one voice saying, "I don't think he's joking." Rescue teams found him days later. The report was clinical, professional, but the reality was simple. Kevin wanted a reaction, and he got one. His family still talks about that day. Every gathering, every holiday. He became unforgettable, which, ironically, was the whole point, just not the way he imagined. Number 2, the Ferris wheel. Romeo. A warm Saturday evening, county fair, fried food, cheap rides, and decisions that peak at exactly the wrong moment. This is the kind of place where people come to relax. Tyler came to perform. 24 years old, recently discovered the gym, recently discovered confidence. Unfortunately, also recently disconnected from reality. Tyler had a very simple philosophy when it came to dating. If personality fails, just risk your life. So when his date, Ashley, a nursing student who made the mistake of saying one harmless sentence, "Ferris wheels are kind of boring," Tyler didn't hear small talk. He heard a challenge. Because in Tyler's brain, there are only 2 settings, normal and main character energy. And tonight, he was the main character. Now let's pause. Ferris wheels are not designed for climbing. They are covered in grease, assembled by the lowest bidder, and held together by a level of engineering that assumes people will behave like humans. Tyler was about to violate that last assumption. The ride slowed near the bottom. Perfect timing. He stood up, looked at Ashley, gave a smile that said, "You're about to witness greatness." She said, "Tyler, don't." He heard, "Please impress me." And just like that, he climbed out of the gondola. The crowd noticed immediately. because nothing draws attention faster than someone actively negotiating with gravity. Phones came out. People pointed. Somebody said, "Yo, this guy's crazy." Tyler loved every second of it. He grabbed the metal frame, started climbing. At first, it worked. Strong grip, controlled movement, adrenaline doing exactly what it's supposed to do, lying to you. 30 feet up, then 40. The higher he went, the louder the reactions got, and the louder the reactions got, the deeper he committed. Because at this point, Tyler wasn't climbing anymore. He was performing. Halfway up, he looked down. Big mistake. Because suddenly, the ground wasn't background anymore. It was a consequence. But by then, he was too far in. And then came the detail Tyler didn't plan for. Sweat, grease, and physics quietly waiting for their turn. His hand slipped. Just a little. But just a little is all it takes. He adjusted, missed his footing. And in that exact second, confidence expired. There's a moment when someone realizes, this is no longer impressive. This is happening. Tyler had that moment. Then gravity had him. The fall wasn't clean. It never is. Ferris wheels are basically vertical obstacle courses. He hit everything on the way down. Metal beams, support bars, every single design element doing exactly what it was built to do. Not catch humans. The crowd went silent. Because the difference between "this is crazy" and "this is real" is about 1 second. Emergency responders arrived. The report said, "Unauthorized climb of amusement ride structure," which is a very polite way of saying he tried to impress someone who barely knew him and became unforgettable anyway. Ashley was rescued from the top an hour later. She deleted the dating app that same night because nothing kills attraction faster than watching someone turn themselves into a cautionary tale. Tyler wanted to be memorable. He wanted to stand out. He wanted to be the guy she'd never forget. Mission accomplished, just not the way he planned. Number 3, the noise-canceling shortcut. There's a certain type of person who believes everything in life can be optimized. Time, calories, sleep cycles, walking routes. If there's a faster way, they will find it. And if there isn't one, they will invent it. Meet Marcus, software developer, the kind of guy who had spreadsheets for his other spreadsheets. Marcus didn't just like efficiency, he believed in it, deeply. So one cold evening, walking home, Marcus noticed something. The normal route? 45 minutes. But there was a shortcut, a railway tunnel. Dark, narrow, active. To most people, that's not a shortcut. That's a warning sign with walls. But Marcus looked at it and thought, I can save 30 minutes. And in his world, 30 minutes wasn't time. It was victory. Now let's add one more detail. Marcus had just bought a pair of premium noise-canceling headphones. Top of the line. Industry leading. The kind designed to block out everything. Traffic, construction, crying babies, and, as it turns out, anything trying to kill you. He put them on, turned the volume all the way up. Music blasting. World gone. Because nothing says good decision like removing your ability to hear reality. Now, quick physics lesson. Trains are not loud the way you think. Modern trains are smooth, fast, and terrifyingly quiet until they're right on top of you. They don't slow down for pedestrians. They don't swerve. They don't negotiate. They arrive. Marcus stepped into the tunnel. Darkness swallowed him immediately, but in his head, everything was perfect. Shorter route, great music, maximum efficiency. At this point, Marcus was probably thinking, this is genius. He walked forward, confident, relaxed. And here's the critical mistake. He walked facing forward, meaning anything coming behind him didn't exist. Not to his eyes, not to his ears, and definitely not to his brain. Further down the track, a train entered the tunnel. Fast, unstoppable. The conductor saw him, hit the horn, hard. That horn is designed to be heard from half a mile away. Marcus's headphones deleted it from existence. Music kept playing. Marcus kept walking, completely unaware that reality had just entered the chat at 120 miles per hour. 8 seconds. That's how long the conductor had. Not enough to stop. Not even close. Marcus never turned around, never reacted, never knew, because the one thing that could have saved him, he turned off. The headphones were found later, still intact, still playing, still doing exactly what they were designed to do. Cancel noise, just not the right kind. The official report said, pedestrian in restricted railway area, which is a very calm way of saying he tried to outsmart time and forgot that physics doesn't care about your schedule. Marcus wanted efficiency. He wanted to save minutes, and technically, he did. Just all of them. Number 4. The Rhino Whisperer. There are two kinds of people who work with animals: people who respect them, and people who think they've unlocked a secret friendship system. Klaus was the second type. 52 years old, senior zookeeper, 30 years of experience. And somewhere along the way, experience quietly turned into delusion. Klaus didn't just handle animals. He believed he understood them, on a deeper level, a spiritual level. He talked to them, sang to them, interpreted their behavior like it was a conversation. To him, this wasn't a job, it was a connection, which is beautiful, until it isn't. Because for 30 years, Klaus worked with safe animals, herbivores, birds, creatures that, when scared, chose one very important strategy: run away. That pattern gave him confidence, and confidence gave him a dangerous idea. They trust me. Then came the reassignment, budget cuts, new role, new enclosure. One very large problem. A full-grown white rhino named Bruno. Now, quick reality check. A white rhino is not an animal you connect with. It's a 2-ton tank with a horn, bad eyesight, great hearing, and a reaction speed that doesn't include negotiation. Standard procedure? Sedate from a distance. Use a dart gun. Stay outside the enclosure. Klaus looked at all that and decided it was unnecessary, because in his mind, Bruno knew him. Bruno trusted him. Bruno would understand. That belief lasted exactly until it was tested. He entered the enclosure, holding a syringe, walking slowly, talking softly like he was starring in his own documentary. Easy, Bruno. It's just me. At this point, Klaus was probably thinking, this is what separates me from everyone else. And in a way, he was right. Bruno was grazing, calm, still. Then, the needle. A sharp, unfamiliar sensation. And instantly, everything Klaus believed disappeared. Because Bruno didn't see a friend. He felt a threat. And animals don't debate that feeling. They act on it. The reaction wasn't dramatic. It was fast, efficient, final. A sudden movement. A massive shift of weight. And in less than a second, 30 years of connection was replaced by reality. No warning. No hesitation, just instinct. Witnesses said it was over almost immediately, because when something that size decides you're a problem, you don't get time to explain yourself. The official report called it a deviation from standard safety protocol, which is a very polite way of saying he trusted a feeling more than he trusted the rules designed to keep him alive. Klaus believed he had a bond, a relationship, an understanding. But animals don't operate on belief. They operate on stimulus. And in that moment, Klaus wasn't a caretaker. He was just something inside the enclosure. Something unfamiliar. Something that needed to be dealt with. There's a lesson here. Experience doesn't make you immune. Familiarity doesn't make you safe. And confidence is not a substitute for reality. Because the moment you start thinking, this one is different, that's usually the moment it proves you wrong. Number 5. The Rooftop Firework Patriot. There are few things more American than fireworks. And there are even fewer things more American than doing fireworks incorrectly. Meet Randy. Lives in Texas. Owns at least one grill, 3 flags, and a level of confidence that increases proportionally with alcohol. For Randy, the 4th of July wasn't just a holiday, it was a performance. A chance to show the neighborhood that freedom wasn't just celebrated, it was launched. Now, most people celebrate responsibly. Backyard, safe distance, maybe a few store-bought fireworks. Randy saw that as weakness. Because in Randy's mind, the real problem with fireworks wasn't danger, it was perspective. They don't look big enough from the ground, he said. And just like that, a terrible idea was born. His plan? Take a full set of high-powered mortar fireworks and launch them from the roof. Because nothing improves safety like elevation and poor judgment. Now let's pause. Firework mortars are not toys. They are controlled explosions, designed to be grounded, stabilized, and very far away from your face. Randy looked at all that and thought, I got this. He carried the tubes up a ladder, set them up on his roof. Slightly uneven, definitely unstable, but good enough. Because good enough is the official motto of bad decisions. His friends gathered below, phones out, beers open. One guy said, Bro, are you sure? Randy smiled. That smile. The universal expression of a man about to ignore everything that matters. It's fine. Those 2 words have ended more stories than bad luck ever will. He lit the fuse, stepped back, and for a moment, everything worked. The first shot launched. Boom. Beautiful. Crowd cheered. Randy raised his arms like a man who had just solved fireworks. At this point, Randy was probably thinking, I just upgraded the 4th of July. Then came shot number 2. And here's the problem with unstable launch systems. They don't stay pointed where you think they do. The tube shifted. Just slightly. Just enough. Because physics doesn't need big mistakes. It just needs small ones in the right direction. The second mortar fired. Not upward, not safely, but sideways. Directly across the roof. Into a structure made of wood, heat, and terrible planning. There was a pause. A very short pause, where everyone's brain tried to process, that didn't look right. Then, fire. Fast. Aggressive. Uninterested in your intentions. Randy didn't run immediately, because shock always buys you a second. Then reality caught up. The roof caught. The structure caught. The situation escalated exactly the way fire always does. Quickly. Emergency crews arrived, neighbors recorded. And somewhere in the chaos, one thing became very clear. Randy had successfully created the most memorable fireworks show on the block. Just not the kind anyone asked for. The official report described it as improper use of consumer fireworks in a residential setting, which is a very calm way of saying he tried to improve something that was already dangerous and made it personal. Randy wanted a bigger show, a better angle, a more impressive display, and he got it. Flames, sirens, audience, everything he wanted, just slightly out of control. There's a lesson here. Fireworks already work. They don't need upgrades. They don't need innovation. And they definitely don't need a guy on a roof saying, "Trust me," because the moment you try to outdo an explosion, you usually become part of it. Number 6. The watermelon slingshot. There is a special kind of intelligence that only appears in backyards. It's not academic. It's not professional. It's the kind that says, we don't need calculations. We've got vibes. Meet Darwin, Texas. Owner of a YouTube channel that existed somewhere between DIY engineering and evidence for why regulations exist. Darwin didn't build useful things. He built ideas. Bad ones. Previous highlights included a homemade cannon that deleted part of his fence, a jet-powered bike that deleted his neighbor's fence, and a potato launcher that introduced itself to a window 3 houses away. So when Darwin announced his next project, no one asked if it would go wrong, just how fast. His masterpiece? A giant slingshot. Not a toy, not a small experiment, a full-scale launch system made from 2 massive poles, industrial tubing, and zero understanding of trajectory. And for the test, a watermelon. Because nothing says safe experiment like launching a 15-pound object straight into the sky. Now let's pause. Basic physics. What goes up, comes down. And if it goes up fast enough, it comes down like a problem. Darren, however, saw something else. Content. Views. A viral moment. He set up the camera, loaded the watermelon, and, this is important, aimed straight up, 90 degrees, directly above his own head. His friend, filming from what he hoped was a safe distance, asked, "Maybe step to the side after you launch it?" Darren laughed, because stepping aside would imply doubt. "I'm gonna track it all the way up and catch it on the way down." That sentence should require a permit. He pulled the bands back. The tension built. The air literally filled with stored energy and bad decisions. At this point, Darren was probably thinking, this is going to be legendary. And to be fair, it was. The release snapped. A thunderclap. The watermelon launched. Fast. Violent. Perfect arc. It shot into the sky like a fruit-based missile. Up, up, up. Smaller, smaller. Gone. And that's when the problem began. Because Darren stood there, looking up, directly into the sun, trying to track something he could no longer see. "Where is it?" he said. "I can't see it." And right there, that exact moment, was the last moment he was in control. Because while he was looking up, the watermelon had already finished going up, and had started coming down. Fast. Very fast. But Darren couldn't see it, because his eyes were flooded with sunlight. All he saw was white. And behind that white was 15 pounds of physics returning to sender. The impact was immediate, brutal, final. The camera kept recording, because cameras don't panic. People do. The footage was never uploaded, but the story spread anyway, because nothing travels faster than a bad idea that proves itself instantly. Officials later described the device as an extremely dangerous homemade projectile system, which is a very professional way of saying he built a machine and forgot he was the target. There's a lesson here. Gravity is patient. It doesn't rush, it doesn't warn, it just waits for you to finish your idea, and then finishes it for you. Darren wanted a viral moment, a perfect shot, a demonstration of backyard genius, and he got it. One clean launch, one perfect arc, one very precise landing, just not in the direction he expected. Number 7. The gun-safe demonstration. There's a very specific type of confidence that comes from owning things built for extreme situations. Military-grade gear, heavy steel, words like airtight and indestructible. And then there's the guy who hears all that and thinks, I should test this personally. Meet Carl, suburban homeowner, proud owner of a brand new gun safe that weighed more than his car and cost more than his first marriage. Carl didn't just buy the safe, he believed in it. Fireproof, theft-proof, airtight. To Carl, this wasn't a storage unit, it was a bunker, a fortress, a statement. So when his friends came over and started asking normal questions like, is it really airtight? Carl didn't answer. He performed. Because answering a question is one thing, proving it dramatically is something else entirely. His plan? Simple. Step inside the safe, have his friend lock it from the outside, sit there for a while, then come out and say, told you so. Now let's pause. Airtight is not a comfort feature. It's a warning. It means nothing gets in, which also means nothing gets out, air included. Carl knew this, technically. But technically isn't the same as emotionally understanding that your lungs require oxygen to continue the whole being alive process. Still, confidence. Audience, beer. Perfect combination for bad decisions. He stepped inside, closed the door, and from the outside, clunk. Locked. His friend laughed, started a timer, because nothing says safe demonstration like turning your survival into a stopwatch activity. Inside the safe, darkness. Silence. Carl sat there, calm, relaxed. At first. Because the first few minutes? Fine. Totally fine. Air still there, confidence still high. At this point, Carl was probably thinking, this is easy. I could do an hour. And that's where the problem begins. Because oxygen doesn't disappear dramatically. It fades. Quietly. Slowly. Without asking for permission. Minutes passed. The air thickened. Each breath felt less effective, like drinking water that doesn't hydrate. A dull pressure built in his chest. His body started sending signals. Subtle at first, then louder. Faster breathing. Heart rate climbing. That quiet voice in his head finally spoke up. This was a mistake. Carl shifted, knocked on the door, lightly, then harder, then with urgency. But here's the problem with 500 pounds of reinforced steel. It doesn't respond to panic. And here's the second problem. His friends were still outside, laughing. Because from their perspective, this was part of the show. Carl was just committing to the bit. Inside, it stopped being funny. Fast. Breathing turned into effort. Effort turned into desperation. Desperation turned into realization. And realization came with one very clear thought. I can't get out. By the time his friend finally decided the joke had gone on long enough and unlocked the door, the demonstration was over. Just not in the way anyone expected. The official report later described it as self-induced confinement in a sealed environment, which is a very formal way of saying he tried to prove something was airtight and accidentally proved it worked. Carl wanted to show strength, durability, engineering, and he did. The safe performed perfectly, exactly as designed. It kept everything inside. There's a lesson here. Some features are not meant to be tested. Some warnings are not suggestions. And airtight is only impressive if you're standing on the outside. Number 8. The Costco Kayak Freeway Test. There is a universal moment in every bad DIY decision. It's the moment you look at something professionally designed and decide, I can skip that part. Meet Brian, suburban dad, Costco member, firm believer that most equipment is just a scam with better branding. Brian had just bought a kayak, brand new, massive, and immediately ran into a problem. How do you get it home? The store had a solution: roof racks, tie-down systems, actual equipment designed by people who understand physics. Brian had a different solution: a pack of bungee cords. Because why spend $200 on proper gear when you can spend $12 on confidence? He lifted the kayak onto his sous vide, strapped it down, tight-ish. Looked at it, gave it a little shake. It didn't immediately fall off, which, in Brian's mind, meant secured. Now let's pause. Highway speeds introduce a fun concept called air resistance, also known as an invisible force that will absolutely test your life choices. A kayak is not small. It is long, curved, and perfectly shaped to catch wind like a sail. Brian did not account for this, because Brian's testing environment was standing still, in a parking lot, with zero wind, which is not where problems happen. Problems happen at 70 miles per hour. He got on the freeway, music on, windows up, confidence intact. At this point, Brian was probably thinking, people overcomplicate everything. For the first few minutes, everything held. The cord stretched slightly, the kayak shifted, just a little, but nothing dramatic, which is the most dangerous phase of any bad setup, false success. Then the speed increased, the wind picked up, and the kayak started thinking for itself. It lifted, slightly, just enough to reduce tension, and once tension drops, everything else follows. The cords loosened, the angle changed, and suddenly, Brian was no longer transporting a kayak, he was towing a decision. Behind him, another driver noticed, because when a large object starts behaving like it has intentions, people pay attention. The kayak lifted higher, pulled sideways, and then detached. Not violently, not explosively, just decisively, like it had reached its own conclusion. It slid off the roof, hit the road, and entered traffic like it had somewhere to be. Cars swerved, brakes slammed, and in a matter of seconds, Brian's cost-saving strategy became a multi-lane problem. Brian pulled over, stepped out, looked at the situation, and for the first time, saw the missing piece. The official report described it as improperly secured cargo resulting in roadway hazard, which is a very calm way of saying he trusted elastic cords more than he trusted reality. The kayak? Damaged. The car behind him? Also damaged. Brian's wallet? Significantly more damaged than if he had just bought the rack. There's a lesson here. If something is designed to go on top of your car, there's usually a reason it comes with instructions. And if your entire plan depends on, "It didn't fall off when I shook it," you haven't tested anything. You've just delayed the moment it fails. Brian wanted to save money. Skip the unnecessary step. Do it his way. And he did. All the way onto the freeway, where physics took over and finished the job for him. Number 9. The leaf blower grill hack. Every American backyard has one guy. You know the guy. Owns the grill, wears the apron, acts like flipping burgers is a personality trait. Today, that guy is Mike. Weekend BBQ specialist. Self-proclaimed grill master, certified by absolutely no one. Mike didn't just cook, he performed. Tongs clicking, beer in hand, running commentary like he's hosting a cooking show nobody asked for. And on this particular Saturday, surrounded by friends, music, and the smell of charcoal, Mike ran into a problem. The fire was too slow. Now, normal people solve this by waiting. Mike doesn't wait, because waiting doesn't look impressive, and Mike needed this moment to look impressive. So when someone casually joked, "Man, just hit it with the leaf blower or something," everyone laughed, except Mike, because Mike heard an idea. Now let's pause. Charcoal grills are designed for controlled heat. Airflow matters. Too little air, fire dies. Too much air, you don't get better heat. You get something else entirely. Mike grabbed the leaf blower, plugged it in, walked back to the grill like a man about to revolutionize cooking. His friends immediately switched from laughing to recording, because instinctively, everyone knew this was about to become content. Mike crouched down, aimed the blower, and said the most dangerous sentence in human history. Watch this. At this point, Mike was probably thinking, "I'm about to speed run fire." He pulled the trigger, and for a split second, it worked. The coals glowed brighter. The flames grew. Mike smiled. Validation. But then, it kept working. More air, more oxygen, more fuel. And suddenly, the grill wasn't cooking anymore. It was escalating. Flames shot up. Fast, aggressive, uninterested in burgers. The fire turned from "nice barbecue" into "why is this happening so quickly?" Mike didn't stop, because stopping would mean admitting something was wrong. So he leaned in, closer. More air, more power. And that's when the fire made a decision. It stopped being contained and became directional. A sudden burst of flame shot outward, not upward, straight toward the person holding the idea. Mike didn't have time to react, because fire doesn't warn, it commits. The blower dropped. The crowd jumped back, phone still recording, because even in chaos, content matters. Emergency services later described it as improper use of equipment leading to uncontrolled flame behavior, which is a very polite way of saying he turned a grill into a flamethrower. The burgers? Never finished. The BBQ? Definitely memorable. And Mike learned something very important. There's a difference between controlling fire and encouraging it too much. Mike wanted faster heat, better results, a moment to prove he knew what he was doing, and he got it. A bigger flame, a louder reaction, an unforgettable show, just not the kind anyone came for. There's a lesson here. If your cooking strategy involves power tools, you are no longer cooking, you are negotiating with chaos. And chaos doesn't care about your seasoning. Number 10. The balcony selfie ladder. Finale. There was a time when people did dangerous things for survival. Now, they do it for a better angle. Meet Jason. Apartment complex. Part-time content creator. Full-time believer that one perfect shot can change everything. Jason didn't want a normal photo. Normal doesn't go viral. Normal doesn't get comments like, "Bro, this is insane." And Jason needed that. So when he looked at his apartment balcony, 10 floors up, he didn't see danger. He saw opportunity. Specifically, a shot no one else had. His plan? Simple. Take a ladder, bridge the gap between his balcony and a nearby ledge, step out, stand in the middle, capture the moment. Because nothing says worth it like turning your safety into a photo shoot prop. Now let's pause. Ladders are designed for going up, going down. They are not designed for horizontal trust exercises over open air. Jason set it up anyway, balanced between two surfaces that were never meant to be connected. One wrong shift, and the entire system becomes a suggestion. His friend watched, concerned, which, in Jason's mind, meant audience secured. "Relax," Jason said. "It's stable." That word again, stable, the favorite lie of every bad setup. He stepped onto the ladder, slowly, carefully. And for a moment, it worked. No movement, no shaking, no immediate consequences, which is always the most dangerous phase. Because success, even temporary, builds confidence. At this point, Jason was probably thinking, "This is it. This is the shot." He moved to the center, pulled out his phone, framed the skyline, adjusted the angle, leaned slightly, just a little, to get that perfect composition. And that's when the problem revealed itself. Because balance isn't about where you start. It's about what happens when you shift. The ladder moved. Just enough. Just slightly. But slightly is all gravity needs. Jason froze. Because there's a moment, a very specific moment, when your brain realizes there is no recovery from this position. He tried to adjust, shift his weight back. Correct. But correction requires stability, and stability was already gone. The ladder slipped. Not dramatically, not violently, just completely. And in that instant, the entire idea collapsed. No second attempt, no retake, no better angle, just a straight, uninterrupted fall. His phone? Still in his hand, because some habits are stronger than survival. The footage was later recovered. A perfect frame, skyline in the background, him centered in the shot, exactly what he wanted. Just not what came after. The report described it as a fall from height during unauthorized structure use, which is a very clean way of saying he tried to get the perfect shot and forgot the ground was part of the process. Jason wanted attention, something unique, something unforgettable, and he got it. A moment no one else had, a shot no one else would attempt, and a reminder that sometimes the difference between content and consequence is one small step too far. All right, let's be honest. Every single person watching this has had at least one moment where they thought, "It'll probably be fine." And somehow, it was. This time. So here's the question. Out of these 10, which one made you physically uncomfortable? Not your favorite, the one where you watched it and thought, "There is no way this ends well." Drop it in the comments. And if you've ever said the words, "Watch this," and immediately regretted it, you were closer to this list than you think. Subscribe, because clearly, common sense isn't evenly distributed.